And again, I had that knowing like there's more than just traditional like stuff. I've always been out of the box. Something else is possible. There's always another way.
Hello and welcome to the Chaos to Clarity podcast. My name is Maggie, aka your business bestie. I teach female coaches, speakers, and course creators to release procrastination and perfection so that they can get more done, book more clients, and have the time freedom that all entrepreneurs crave. This is not your typical business coaching podcast. We're talking about business, life, probably some wooey magic, and probably some singing or referencing song lyrics along the way. So if you're into business building, making more money, and getting a little bit of a mindset shift along with having a good laugh, you're definitely in the right place. I've grown 3 businesses from $0 to consistent 4 and 5 figure months over the last 15 plus years. And now I'm helping you do the same thing. It didn't happen overnight, and it certainly didn't happen without the help of others. They say it takes a village to raise children, and I believe it takes a village to grow a business as well. So in this podcast, you'll find people who help you grow your village, cheer you on, as well as holding you accountable. I'm so excited you're here, and I can't wait for you to listen to each episode. Let's dive in. Welcome back to Chaos to Clarity. I am so excited today. I have Dawn here with me. So Dawn, why don't you go ahead and tell everyone who you are, who you serve, and what you're all about.
Yeah, thank you so much. So good to be here. So I'm Dawn Gaden. I am in Brighton, Michigan. I'm a licensed counselor. I've been a licensed counselor for about 22 years, over 22 years. I've always wanted to help people, and I was one of those lucky people all my life. I wanted to help people. That's what I knew I wanted to do. And I found my ideal program, my master's degree program, because they offered a certification in complementary medicine and wellness. And again, I had that knowing like there's more than just traditional like stuff. I've always been out of the box. Something else is possible. There's always another way. And so I found that program. So I have my master's in counseling. So I have my own private practice in Brighton. I'm also a yoga teacher. Again, I pull
Ooh,
in a
me too.
lot of these. Yeah, yeah. Oh, so cool. So we will be able to speak the same language.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, so I bring in all these pieces to what I teach with my clients, and that's the breath work and mindfulness and um, just really tuning in because I think, like you say, like, and I often will say this too to the clients, like we got to calm the chaos in the mind. We have all this chatter, and a
Mhm.
lot of it's negative, and if we just quiet that down and tap into who we really are, that's where we find our joy and our purpose and what we, how to bring more fun into our life. And so I typically work with professional women. I have men that are my clients too, but typically I find myself with professional women who know how to succeed. They're successful in business, but there's something missing. Like, Dawn, I thought once I had all this stuff out here, I'd be happy.
Mhm.
And so I work with people to find the happy first, and then all this stuff out here will come to them.
Mhm.
So I will say often what I do is I help people. I help them work with the energy of emotions, of thoughts, and of movement. So there's another practice I teach called intensati,
Mhm.
and it's a movement with mantras. So it's kind of like if you can imagine dance, martial arts, and yoga in one.
Oh,
It's like it's
cool.
all everything we need is in this big fun ball. And when we understand the energy of our emotions and how we can actually elevate our emotions and we can choose how we want to feel, we can choose the thoughts that we want to feed, then we can create a life that we love by like drawing into us the things that we really want. So it comes from the inside first, and that's what I teach my clients.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. I also love that you're a yoga teacher. It's so cool to me that as I've been doing these podcasts, just the connections I've made and realized that like, wow, have been in these groups with a lot of these other people where we have been so close to like meeting each other, and now it's like this chance meeting that I
Yeah.
just love that so much.
So cool. It's so fun. And again,
Yes.
it adds the fun to life. If like we're showing up the way we want to show up, it gets really fun. We
Right.
ride the waves much better.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely kind of makes it easier to ride some of those like the highs, especially the lows, right? As you're
Yeah.
navigating that stuff when you're like, oh man, this is really awesome. And then all of a sudden, the next thing you know, you're like, oh, this really stinks. How,
Yeah.
like, where can I turn for help, right? Like, and that's part of my kind of mission behind this is to help others like find those people and like find that, like when I had kids, when I had my daughter 5 years ago, I cannot tell you how many people said to me, it takes a village to raise a kid. Call me if you need me.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm a fairly stubborn person and was like, yeah, okay, noted, got it. Right. Yes. Yay.
Yep.
And then it got to the point where I really did need help, right? Like my husband and I, we needed help. We needed more. So I
Yep.
started calling on those people and realized that, okay, wow, I really do have an amazing network,
Mhm.
um, an amazing support. And then as I had my son, I realized, wow, it takes a village to also run a business, right? Like if
Oh,
you look,
yes.
if you look
Mhm.
at raising children and running a business, that you can see them both through the same or
Yeah.
similar lenses, right? You need people, you need more than just you in your business, right? Whether that's to help your mind or, like I've talked to CFOs, I've talked to CMOs and COOs, right? People who help you build those things in your business that really elevate you to that next level.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
a lot of the people I work with are kind of in that just starting phase or within those first like 5 to 7 years of business where they might not have reached that magical $100,000 mark, right? Like I feel like so many
Mhm.
people talk about that, and it's great. It's a great goal to have, but at the same time, like how can we build you up foundationally from the beginning
Right.
and get you in connection with people who are going to be there to help build those foundations where when you're
Mhm.
ready to step up into those next levels, you feel supported.
Absolutely. And it goes back to that saying where you are the, what is it? How do they say it? Though you're look at the five people you hang around with the
Yes.
most.
Yep.
And that's so significant because in growing, especially with growing, well, in everything, but in growing a business to that conversation, when we take a look, and I'm learning this as I'm building my business, as when I went out on my own to have my own practice and my own business to do things, and serve people the way I wanted to, I don't know everything. We don't
Right.
know everything. And so we have to look to those people who are experts in what they do and finding that collaboration so that we
Mm-hmm.
can continue to grow. Because most successful people, if not all, have a team one way or
Right.
another. They have a mastermind, they have a coach, they have, people doing their booking and
Mm-hmm.
the finances and scheduling, whatever it is, being honest and tuned in to know what is it I'm really good at and what is it that I might need someone's expertise on so I can
Right.
continue to grow and do what I know I'm meant to do here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think one of the hardest things is knowing when to ask for help. Right. I know for me when I had kids, at first with my daughter, I was like, no, we can do everything. It's not a big deal. And I have family that lives very close to
Yeah,
where we are. Um, and and it got to the point where I was like, oh, I do need help.
yeah. And there's something I teach a lot and way back. I want people to understand prevention rather than crisis management.
Yeah.
Right? Step in
Hmm.
and that's really getting to know yourself when you're starting to feel like your foundation's falling apart or you're about to, fall over the edge. Let's not get there. Let's really tune into where we're at to understand when we're like, oh, I want to reach for help and ask for support before I get to a place where I'm ready to pull my hair out or crawl under a rock. I
Right.
know.
Yes.
Yeah, because we don't need
Yeah.
that. We don't need to then work our way back up. Like there's no, Even when people say about hitting rock bottom when it comes to anything, like we don't have to wait.
Mm-hmm.
If we're paying attention and we're aware, we could notice and change and shift direction sooner.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think there's so much power in having that knowledge, right? In trusting your inner wisdom, right? That you know, deep down you know, and you will take the steps that you need, whether it's early in more of a prevention way, or whether it's at that rock bottom where, you're burnt out and whatever the laundry list winds up being.
Mhm, mhm.
So I think it's really interesting. It's really interesting to see. So my coaching business is my third business. So stepping into this for the third time and growing something from zero to what it is today, I definitely realized that a lot sooner, where I'm like, okay, this is starting to happen again. Here's that old thing that's playing out from the last two businesses that both very successful, but like, okay, I'm starting to get into this mindset habit. And
Yeah.
this thought is recurring again. How can I rein it in and look at it from a new lens to say, okay, what is sparking this thought? And
Mhm.
whether that's imposter syndrome, or like the busy badge, or like the hustle, like I have to work all these hours because I'm quote unquote not making enough money to afford something else, right? To afford the help.
Mhm.
um you know Getting into that and restructuring my thoughts around that, there's a lot of
Right.
power in that.
Absolutely. And often people ask, like, how do I know that voice? How do I hear that voice? And I call that voice the intuition, like your inner knowing and your connection to that higher source.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes practice. It's like when I tell people about meditation, you're flexing the muscle of the mind to train
Mm-hmm.
it to focus.
Right.
Same with that intuition, that inner voice. It's sitting with it. Meditation is
Mm-hmm.
the best way to do that, in
Right.
my opinion, to sit in that stillness. And often it just starts with a minute a day. You
Mm-hmm.
just start. You just start listening and tuning in and being still, and you start to notice. And everyone uses their intuition. Everyone, you always I think everyone has heard where someone said, "Oh, if I would have listened to my gut." Like
Yep.
we know when we're
Yeah.
not listening. We know when we've,
Mm-hmm.
I call it logicalizing, when we logicalized a situation and we're like, "No, this is better." And then we're like, "Oh, if I would have listened to my gut."
Right.
We
Yep.
know, and it's just strengthening it so that we know more often, and
Mm-hmm.
we're aware more often, we're present so that our choices continue to take us where we want to go.
Right. Yeah, and it's a practice, like if you take yoga, they call it a practice for a reason. There is no like final, I mean, some yoga teachers will tell you there's a final destination, but like overall, right? Like it's a practice because it changes every day and it's always a little bit different. And I think, coming back to the familiarity of yourself and like trusting some of those intuition pings and hits where, like there are things along the way, along the last like 2 years of this coaching journey, that I know I was not choosing with my gut. I make decisions with my gut. And if it is a like fire in my gut, heck yeah, I know it's a good decision. But when my brain starts getting involved in a like, oh, there's right, and like that
Mhm.
monkey mind starts
Yeah.
going, I know it's not a great
Yeah.
decision for me.
Yeah. Yeah, and the key is awareness, being aware of
Mm-hmm.
it. I mean, that's so important. We start to notice when we're jumping all around and when we're focused. And the more we're aware of it, the stronger we can get at it.
Right. Yes, absolutely. So that is a really good segue into my next question, which is, what is something challenging that you personally have overcome in your time as an entrepreneur, or even, if you worked in corporate, just like over the last 20 years, what is something challenging that you've navigated?
Oh, yeah, big one. Job loss, cancer, all in one bunch. Yeah, so I have four boys
Uh-huh.
and we had twins, so we were expecting twins. They're beautiful, wonderful, and that was a rough journey because we weren't quite sure if they were going to make it.
Sure.
So that started out that with some turbulence. They made it here. Then the economy took a dive
Mhm.
and my husband lost his job. But what came actually before that was we had the twins, four beautiful boys. Let's buy a bigger house. Job loss.
Uh-huh.
And at the time, I was working part-time. I wanted to be home to raise my kids. So I worked, I
Mhm.
got my degree, had kids, we had got married, had kids. And I said, well, part-time until the kids are old enough. So my husband and I did that tag team quite a
Yep.
bit.
Yep.
And it was wonderful. I loved it. It was just beautiful, right? The American dream, really.
Mhm.
And then my husband lost his job, and we said, well, we have to do something. And so I found a full-time job, which was like ripping my heart out. It was
Mhm.
not what I wanted to do, even though my husband was a great father, like
Yeah.
wonderful father. And the job I got also was in mental health, but in a very toxic environment. The
Okay.
company that I worked for, it was just devastating. It was just bad. And so I got to a point where I've never experienced a level of depression, right?
Mhm.
Like I work with people who've experienced it, and I've heard people say, everything just is gray. And I'm like, this is what my clients are talking about. Like everything's gray.
Mhm.
And I was not suicidal, but I had this moment driving to work, another day to work, and just like, again, like my heart is being ripped out because this isn't the way it
Mhm.
was supposed to be, right? And I thought, I could just leave. I could just keep driving. No one would miss me. It just, and it was that moment of like, wake up, Dawn. Like, there's got to be
Mhm.
another way. I always had that part of me, and I was always tuned into that. I think we all have it.
Yep.
That part of me said, no, there's got to be another way.
Mhm.
I'm like, well, God, give me something else because
Right.
this I can't handle. And because I mean, leave. And I know people have been there. I mean, there are people
Mhm.
have been there where they're like, I just want to leave. Like, this is like, I'm no good.
Yep.
And it was shortly after that I was diagnosed with cancer. And I thought, well, God, is this
Right.
supposed to be a joke? Like,
Yeah.
I can handle this, but I can't handle this horrible job. Like,
Right.
you're kidding. And so I had to do a lot of inner soul searching to figure out what is this about? What is this
Mhm.
about? Because there had to be something here, a shift I needed to take that I wasn't willing to take. Who leaves the job when it's paying the bills and feeding your children because you're depressed? Like that's
Right.
where people get stuck, right? But I have to feed my children and I have to pay the bills. Well, I got to a point, I knew it's like that my body, my soul knew there was this like struggle. So then
Mhm.
I was forced to shift. I was forced. And and so I did. I left the job
Mhm.
and made that decision. I had to make the decision to take care of myself, tune back into what really mattered, healed my body, healed my heart, healed my
Mhm.
soul. And I even got to a point where I was like, I'm not helping people anymore. I can't help
Right.
people. I can't help myself. How am I going to help other people? All that story, right? It
Yep.
just says, I have to go work in a garden all
Yeah.
day. I'll do that. Feed people. Everybody needs food. Um, but I kept finding myself drawn back to my mindfulness practices and yoga and all this mindset stuff and health, personal growth. Like we're meant for something great here. Every single one of us,
Mhm.
doesn't matter what the job title is or what you're doing, but you're meant for something. And I said, okay, I need to find a way to do this in a way that's good, healthy,
Right.
stable. So I can be the mom I want to be, the wife I want to be, and be a really good professional where I can help people. And
Mhm.
so I did. So I took, well, I think I took 2 years off work. Never have done that before. Wow, 2 years off to just clean the slate
Yep.
and started back to work and then started my own practice. And love it. I mean, I love my own practice. I love doing what I'm doing. I love that I can reach out to the people I need, like we were talking
Mhm.
about, like the
Yep.
coaches and the mastermind groups and the network that support me on this journey. And so it was huge. It was a huge leap and it's scary as heck because like when I left to go to deal with cancer, my husband still didn't have a job. So it's
Yeah.
like faith that this is all
Yeah.
going to come together. And it
Mhm.
did. And I'm strong enough to handle the dips, the
Yep.
valleys. I'm strong enough. I can do this. And it's like,
Mhm.
that's what I tell myself. That's what I tell my clients. Like, we're stronger than any challenge that comes our way.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
so that's the journey of really learning how to like, what am I meant for?
Mhm.
What do I need? And sometimes we need rest. I needed rest. I need to
Yep.
get clear. And sometimes we have to take that step back and not push. We're pushing sometimes so hard. We're going against what we're meant for. And learning that too is big for me, to learn to just bring more joy in, bring more
Yeah.
fun, you know?
Right. Yeah. Oh, that what a huge testament to just trusting the process,
Mhm.
right? Like I know just for me, so I worked in corporate until I think like 2013. Um when I'd grown my photo business to a point where I was probably working 80 hours a week between my corporate job and my photo job. And I was told at my corporate job, oh, you need to put in overtime. And I was like, why? I'm getting my work done. I don't have enough work to fill 40 hours. So what are you going to give me to do? And my boss went, find something. And I said, every time I find something to do, I get in trouble for it. I get in trouble for finding work because I'm not here in the group.
Mm.
So, and then it just got to a point where I was like, well, figure it out. And I was like, figure it out. And I went home and I was so mad. I was so upset. And I went home and I went to bed that night and I'm like, I'm gonna quit. I'm gonna
I got it
quit.
figured out.
And I went into work. It was the middle end of December. Yeah, I went into work the next day and I went to HR and I called a meeting of, my two bosses and the manager of HR, and they walked into the room and they're like, how did you, why are we all here? And I just took a big breath in and I said, I quit. I'm done. I can't do this anymore.
Right.
It, my manager's jaw hit the floor and the manager above him started clapping, like cheering for me. He's like, yes, I knew you could. I knew you could
Wow.
do it. And the HR
Yeah.
manager was like, I not know what is happening here. You're quitting? And I was like, yep, I'm done. So if you want me to leave today, I can pack my stuff. I can leave right now.
Yeah.
Um, and they were all kind of like, oh, you're serious.
Yeah.
Oh. And after I left, when I walked out the door for the final time, I had to trust that I had just made the right decision
Mm-hmm.
because although I didn't totally burn the bridge, I knew I never wanted to be in that situation, in that
Right.
environment again.
Right.
Um, so having that trust, that faith, that's like, I'm pretty sure I've
Mhm.
got this handle, but like,
Yeah.
what happens if I don't?
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
not going too much into the what if. Like obviously
Right.
there's practical reasons,
Yep.
but staying in, like I always take a look at, like, we have two pots of
Mm-hmm.
a pot of fear and shame and judgment and guilt and all this junk. And then
Right.
over here, this pot of love and joy and confidence. And if we're making decisions out of love, confidence, like we know that we know it's going to work out. It is. It doesn't mean it's going to be perfect, but it's going to work. When
Mm-hmm.
we're in the state of fear and we do things out of fear, like that's when things kind of go haywire. And
Mm-hmm.
having that confidence to like stand up for yourself. So many more people feel trapped in jobs and like victims, and
Mm-hmm.
like someone's the boss of me. Like I can't do that. And just to feel empowered enough to say, I got this. And
Right.
it's time for me to go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So good.
Yeah. Yes. Oh my gosh. All right. So my next question for you is, what is one piece of advice that you would tell your younger self?
Oh my goodness, my younger self, believe in yourself more.
Mm-hmm.
Stop looking for other people to tell you how to do your job. I
Yeah.
think that's something I experienced this past year, which I don't regret any of it. But when COVID came and things adjusted, because as a mental health professional, I see people face to face,
Mm-hmm.
and then that changed to virtual. And then
Mm-hmm.
now it's transforming into other things, which
Yep.
is really exciting. But part of the, I think we have opportunities to learn about ourselves all the time. And when I look back at the past year, what did I learn? I learned that I hired a lot of people to help guide me,
Mm-hmm.
but which was great. I don't regret anything I learned. I learned what I like, I learned what I don't like, I learned what I
Mm-hmm.
want, I learned what I don't want. But what I learned the most, which is invaluable, is that I was putting a lot of energy into they're going to tell me I'm doing it right, or they're
Yeah.
going to like, they've got the answer. They've got the answer. They've got the answer. They've got the answer for them. And they
Mm-hmm.
might have a nugget for me, but I know.
Mm-hmm.
I know what I need. I know what I want. I know what's right for me and my business. And that if my if I could tell my younger self that, like, start now believing in yourself, learn and study.
Mm-hmm.
Don't believe they're better than you. Don't believe
Right.
that they know more than what you're capable of and what you have to offer.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
And
I love that. I love that so much.
yeah, everyone believes that. Regardless of if we're talking about work, if we're talking about parenting, being a human,
Mm-hmm.
believe in yourself.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's so good. What an just yeah, just such a good reminder, right? To like everything comes back to you and like how can you make you feel better? Like the chances are you have the answer within like 6 feet of you, I think is what I mean, obviously statistics are what they are, but right, like I was listening to a podcast not long ago and the woman talking said your next step for whatever you want to do is within a 6 foot radius of you right now, your
Yeah.
next step. Right. So, and just thinking about that, knowing like I have all the answers and I might not know the answer for next week, Tuesday, but I know the answer for right now for, for another 15, 20, 1 hour, whatever. Right. I can get me to the end of the day. And then we're going to take another step and get into tomorrow. So I think that's so good.
So good. Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
good.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, my last question for you is if you were a kitchen utensil or gadget, what would you be and why?
Okay, first thing that comes to mind, because if I, I know a lot of people like hire house cleaners.
Mm-hmm.
The very first thing I would hire out is a cook. Someone manage my kitchen, cook me food,
Yeah.
grocery shop. Like, I don't need utensils. I don't want gadgets. Like, just, have a clean kitchen every day. But
Uh-huh.
the gadget I'm appreciating right now is this little tiny, like, whisker.
Yeah.
It's like a mixer,
Yeah.
and I really enjoy coffee,
Uh-huh.
and I just use cream, and I actually I've someone introduced me to like heavy whipping cream in your coffee because I don't add sugar or anything like
Yes.
that. And I'm like,
That's the best.
oh my gosh, that sounds so good.
Yes.
And so I just pour a little bit of that, and my son showed me, you just stick that in, Mom, and
Yeah.
it whips up, and it just is light and fluffy. And
Uh-huh.
so like to bring more lightness into the day, it's like I'd have
Mm-hmm.
that little whisker just to bring that more lightness in. So
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love that so much. That's so good. Awesome. Well, Dawn, thank you so much.
yeah.
It's been such a pleasure to talk to you. Tell
Anytime.
everyone, so I'll put all the information in the notes, in the show notes, but tell everyone how they can connect with you and just how you run things.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a private Facebook group. It's called The Image Shift. So we transcend from struggle and really step into our own power. So it's a free Facebook group. I go live in there every Tuesday. It's called Empower Hour. And I also am a guest teacher in another group called Unlock Your Legacy, where I actually teach half hour every Monday of Intensati. And so
Okay.
we started a moving and feeling really good about ourselves. My email me anytime, is dawn at createconsciousliving.com. What is that? Dawn at createconsciousliving.com. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's my email. And then my website is Create Conscious Living.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. I can't wait to connect with you more and just encourage and empower you.
Thank you. You too. This was fun. I enjoyed it.
Wow, what a great interview. Thank you so much for showing up here on the Chaos to Clarity podcast. Again, my name is Maggie. I'm so excited to connect with you. You can find all of the information, all of the links below in the show notes for today's interview. And I hope you have the best day ever.